Imagine a world where just one country provides a huge amount of the life-saving vaccines we all rely on, and also makes affordable medicines accessible for millions, literally across the globe.
Hmm.
What if that single nation's pharmaceutical power really shaped global health security and even access to healthcare economically?
It sounds pretty dramatic when you put it like that, doesn't it?
It does, but maybe it's not so far-fetched
Yeah.
because a really key moment just happened. June 16th, 2025, a big announcement out of New Delhi.
Ah, right. Union Minister Anupriya Patel at the Second Policymakers Forum.
Exactly. And she laid out some figures that, well, they really put India center stage as a global health player.
Yeah.
No denying it now.
And those numbers are genuinely impactful. I mean, an incredible 70%, 70 of the World Health Organization's vaccine supply, that comes from India.
70%.
Yeah.
So 7 out of every 10 doses the WHO distributes globally,
Yeah,
made in India.
precisely. And then there are generic drugs. 14% of all the generics imported into the United States have that Made in India stamp. These figures, they really highlight India's critical role. Almost indispensable, really. It's why people are calling it the pharmacy of the world.
Right, the pharmacy of the world. So let's dig into that because these numbers, they're way more than just stats on a page, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
They represent this fundamental force that's changing global health. It affects everyone, from a patient needing medicine in Mumbai to a clinic figuring out costs in Manhattan. So in this deep dive, we're going to explore how India got here, what this dominance means for global health equity, and yeah, why it actually matters to you no matter where you are listening.
Sounds good. Where should we start? With the vaccines.
Let's do it. That 70% WHO supply figure, it's just
Yeah.
huge. And it's not just about production lines, is it? It's about lives saved, continents covered, polio, measles, and of course, the massive effort against COVID-19.
It really speaks volumes. And India's commitment, it was so clear during the pandemic with their vaccine Maitri initiative. Remember that?
I do. Can you remind us what that involved?
Well, while a lot of nations were, let's say, focused inward, maybe hoarding supplies, India shipped over 100 million vaccine doses to more than 95 countries.
Wow, over 100 million.
Yeah, it wasn't just charity, though it was certainly goodwill. It was strategic. It showed their manufacturing muscle and reliability when the world was, frankly, scrambling. It really cemented their role.
So how do they do it? That's the big question.
Yeah.
How does India manage to produce such high-quality vaccines, often at prices that are, well, incredibly affordable globally?
Right?
We hear about players like the Serum Institute of India, SII, and Pune, giants on the world stage making vaccines like Covishield at just unbelievable scale.
Well, it's not just one thing. It's a mix. There's been serious investment in cutting-edge tech. There's a massive skilled workforce and, crucially, a really robust regulatory system.
Okay, the regulatory part is key.
It absolutely is. India's system actually earned the WHO's global benchmarking tool, the GBT Maturity Level 3 status.
Maturity level 3. What does that mean in plain English, like getting a gold star?
Huh, sort of, but from a very, very strict teacher. It's a tough assessment. It means India's processes meet the highest international standards for ensuring safety, quality, efficacy. It shows they have a reliable, well-established framework. It's not handed out easily.
Got it. So it's like if the WHO is the global chef trying to make a huge vaccine stew,
Okay, I like that analogy.
India is providing most of the essential ingredients. Without them, the recipe just wouldn't work on a global scale. The whole system would look totally different.
That's a really good way to put it. Millions could be left out.
All right, so that's the vaccine blockbuster story. But then there are the generic drugs, maybe the critically acclaimed indie film compared to the vaccine blockbuster.
Ah, I like that too. Yeah, maybe less headline grabbing sometimes, but arguably just as vital, if not more so, for daily healthcare.
So that 14% figure for U.S. imports, and I read they have the most U.S. FDA-approved plants outside the U.S. itself.
That's right. It's significant. Generics are basically the affordable versions of brand name drugs. Same active ingredients, same effect, same quality standards, just without the fancy label and the, designer price tag.
Like buying store-brand ketchup instead of Heinz, maybe?
Yeah,
Tastes the same, does the job.
exactly. And India is the world leader here because they can make these essential medicines at a scale and cost that. Well, it really opens up access to healthcare for so many.
And the impact must be huge in low- and middle-income countries.
Transformative. Absolutely transformative.
Is there an example within India itself?
Yes, a really powerful one is the Pradhan Mantri Pratya Jan Aushadhi Prayojana. It's usually called the Jan Aushadhi scheme.
Jan Aushadhi, okay.
It's set up Thousands of these pharmacies, Jan Aushadhi Kendras, all across India, they sell quality generic medicines at really, really low prices, sometimes just pennies compared to the market rate. It means people don't have to choose between medicine and food.
That's incredible, making life-saving drugs truly accessible.
And what's really telling is that around 70% of India's generic drug output, it's exported, and mostly to highly regulated markets like the US and Europe.
Right, so back to that quality point. It's not just cheap production.
Not at all. It proves they consistently meet the toughest international standards. It's like getting an A+ on a notoriously difficult exam again and again. They've mastered hitting global quality targets while keeping costs manageable. That combination is their superpower, really.
So quality and affordability hand in hand. But underpinning all this manufacturing must be a strong regulatory system, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the ML3 status.
Exactly. You can't have one without the other, not sustainably anyway. The Indian Pharmacopoeia, which is like the rule book for drug standards in India.
Okay.
It's now officially recognized by 15 other countries. Cuba just joined the list recently.
15 countries adopting India's standards. That sounds like a big vote of confidence.
It is. It's way more than just bureaucratic paperwork. It's a global nod to India's commitment to quality, to the science behind their regulations.
And that WHO Maturity Level 3 status we talked about for vaccines, that applies to drugs too.
Yes, it covers the whole national regulatory system for pharmaceutical products. It confirms the system is solid, well-established, overseeing everything from development right through to checking medicines once they're on the market. International bodies trust it.
Okay. And there's this push for harmonization, making India's rules line up even better with global ones.
Right. Think of it like choreographing a dance so everyone's steps match perfectly.
A Bollywood dance sequence for drug regulations.
Maybe not quite that glamorous, but yes. It makes international trade smoother, removes barriers. And Minister Patel really stressed this at that forum. She said it's key for global health equity, making sure good, affordable medicines can get where they're needed faster.
Makes sense. It's not just about making this stuff, it's about getting it approved and shipped easily.
Precisely.
Now, beyond the factories and the labs, India seems to be playing a bigger role on the world stage through health diplomacy, especially under Prime Minister Modi.
Yes, definitely. That vaccine Maitri program wasn't just about logistics, it was diplomacy in action. You saw the contrast, right? Some countries were, well, pointing fingers or were focused only on themselves during the crisis. India was actively sending out supplies, building bridges. It wasn't just being nice, though. It was strategic.
How so?
Well, it earns India a seat at the table, a very important table in global health discussions. It builds influence, shows leadership. That second policymakers forum with regulators from 24 countries coming to New Delhi, that's proof. It lets India, flex its muscles a bit, advocate for its standards, push for a fairer global system.
So while some countries were maybe still debating vaccine sharing, India was already out there playing, I don't know, global health superhero.
You could say that, perhaps slightly sarcastically. But yeah, the proactive approach builds trust. You see it in the reliance WHO has on them, the reliance the U.S. has for generics. It shows a kind of interdependence.
Now, that reliance is a powerful indicator. It really suggests a shift in how global health works, with India becoming pretty foundational. Okay, let's bring this right back to the listener. Why does India, being the pharmacy of the world, matter directly to you wherever you are?
Great question. It matters hugely.
How?
Well, first, affordable vaccines globally mean fewer outbreaks of diseases like measles or polio. That makes the whole world safer, including safer travel for everyone. And it means less panic when or if another pandemic hits. We have a more resilient global defense.
Right. Collective security.
And then there are the generic drugs. They keep healthcare costs down everywhere, including potentially your own country. It means less chance you or someone you know has to make that awful choice between medicine and, say, groceries.
That's a very direct impact.
It is. And India's push for equitable access, making sure vulnerable people get quality care, whether they're in a remote village in India or a clinic in sub-Saharan Africa, that contributes to a more stable, healthier world overall, which benefits us all.
And that Jan Aushadhi scheme you mentioned earlier, those low-cost pharmacies in India.
Yes, they're expanding rapidly. By June 2025, they said over 10,000 Kendras were up and running.
10,000?
Yeah, offering medicines at prices that feel like a permanent government sale. It's a real-world example of making affordability work on a massive scale.
So putting it all together, India supplying 70% of WHO's vaccines means kids everywhere get their polio shots. And 14% of U.S. generics coming from India helps keep medicine cabinets stocked affordably for American families.
Exactly. India's kind of like the cool kid at school who actually shares their lunch with everyone. They're providing the essentials that keep the whole system running and more fairly too.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing, right? Being the world pharmacy must come with challenges.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge responsibility, and there are definite hurdles.
Like what?
Well, global supply chains are complex and easily disrupted, as we saw during COVID. Geopolitical tensions can suddenly impact trade flows, and with such massive production volumes, maintaining consistent quality across the board requires constant vigilance. There's always scrutiny.
Yeah, I remember there were some periods during the pandemic when India had to restrict vaccine exports to meet its own needs first. That caused friction.
It did. Balancing domestic needs with global commitments is a tough act. And ensuring every single batch from every single factory meets stringent standards is, well, an enormous ongoing task for regulators like the CDSCO, the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization.
So how are they managing these challenges? Are they being proactive?
I think so. They seem very aware of the need to maintain trust. The CDSCO is constantly working to strengthen its oversight. And the growing international recognition of the Indian pharmacopoeia, that rule book we mentioned, that's part of building confidence, showing commitment to quality. It's like India is saying, you want quality, we've got it, and we'll deliver it reliably.
Okay, so adapting and improving. What about the future? Minister Patel's speech wasn't just about current achievements, was it? It sounded like a roadmap.
Definitely a call to action. The push for more regulatory harmonization, getting more countries to recognize Indian standards, that's likely to continue, making exports even easier.
And the Jan Aushadhi scheme. More expansion.
Yes, the goal seems to be reaching every part of India. Plus, there's a lot happening in innovation, things like AI and diagnostics, work on new vaccines, especially for diseases like tuberculosis, TB.
TB is still a massive global problem. What's
Yeah.
India doing there?
But making significant progress, actually. Their National TB Elimination Program, the NTTP, has already cut TB incidence by nearly 18% since 2015. That's huge.
Wow, 18%.
And they're rolling out new treatments, like something called the MB-PAL regimen. It cuts treatment time for the really tough drug-resistant TB from maybe 2 years down to just 6 months.
6 months, that's a game changer for patients.
Absolutely. So it shows they're not just mass-producing existing drugs, they're also innovating to tackle major health crises head-on.
So wrapping this up, it feels like India's pharmaceutical sector is more than just a giant factory. It's like I don't know, the overachieving sibling in the global family who aces their exams but also helps everyone else with their homework.
Haha, that's one way to put it. It's multifaceted. It's not just the pharmacy of the world. Perhaps it's becoming the heart and soul of global health equity. From New Delhi outwards, their vaccines, their drugs, they're touching lives everywhere, making healthcare more affordable, more accessible.
Right. It's demonstrating that providing essential healthcare access on a global scale is possible.
It is, and India is really at the center of making that happen.
So a final thought for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
Next time you get a vaccine, or maybe take a generic pill, just pause for a second. Think about how India's quiet but massive influence might be reaching directly into your life, into your community's health, and ponder how this steady rise is reshaping who holds responsibility on the global stage and what it means for access to healthcare for billions. What other shifts might we see as India cements this role? And how will it change the way we cooperate on future health crises? It's a profound shift. And maybe, just maybe, it's a prescription for a healthier world we can all ultimately get behind.